This isn't just a piece of paper. It's your 401k. It's everything you've worked for your entire life, so far at least. That may sound a little bit dramatic, but for most people, it's true. I remember the first time I heard about a 401k. I thought it sounded like a terrible band name. But anyway, I was told to just save now and worry about paying taxes later, which seems so simple. So I did what a lot of people do, and I dumped as much money as I possibly could into my 401k without really thinking about it very much. And the older that I get, the more I question if I was really making the right move or not. If you're new to my channel, my name is Thomas Wilson. I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm a business owner, and like a lot of you, I did what you're supposed to do, and I went to college and I went and got a job, but now I've been blessed to be able to choose what I do with my time every single day, and now I've been helping people with their finances for about a decade. But I used to worry about finances like a lot, like a whole lot. And the more that I got into it, finances really aren't as intimidating as I thought they were. And it probably took me a lot longer than it should have for me to really figure that out. So I decided to start this YouTube channel to hopefully save you the time and effort that I took into learning finances and help you think differently and hopefully actually enjoy your finances rather than worry about them all the time. Oh, and to take some pretty sweet shots of me making coffee. See, that was pretty cool. All right, so a few years ago, I didn't know what a 401k was or how they worked, so let's talk about that. In 1978, the IRS implemented tax code 401k, which basically allowed employees to contribute to their retirement plans completely tax-free while also allowing their employers to match their contributions. Okay, to help me explain how a 401k works, I've got these two glasses. This one is labeled 401k, and this one says taxes. Okay, so as you get paid through your paychecks, you are going to contribute directly into your 401k, right? So every paycheck, you make money, you put it in your 401k. And we are not putting money into the tax jar just quite yet. All right, and so hopefully your money is doing well, it's invested inside of the stock market, so you're actually earning interest, and you're also contributing money out of your paycheck. So over time, it's gonna grow. Like this, and let's say that some time goes by, right? Let's put a bunch of money in here. All right, and now it's time to retire. Okay, so when we are ready to retire, we're gonna take some money out. This much goes to you, and then you're also gonna contribute to taxes now. This is when we're pulling it out. So you pull money out, you pay taxes then inside of retirement. This is how it works. All right, and that's basically how a traditional 401k works. It sounds nice, right? Save now and pay taxes later. But maybe there's more to the story. So when it comes time to retire, whether you're 40, 65, or 165, whatever it is, tax rates could potentially be higher than they are now, a lot higher, which could really eat into your retirement savings. Imagine this. Let's say that the US government decides to spend trillions and trillions of dollars, which increases our national debt so much that it leaves us without very many options, which kind of sounds like now. Well, an easy solution for the government to solve the national debt problem would be to just raise taxes. Because let's be honest, that debt's not gonna pay itself off unless the IRS wins the lottery, which seems unlikely. This would mean that withdrawing from your 401k might mean handing over a significant chunk back over to the IRS. You might be thinking, how could they raise taxes? They're already so high. Well, this might surprise you, but they've done it before. So what's stopping them from doing it again in the future? This is a graph of the US income tax rates from $10,000 all the way up to making $250,000. And as you can see, in the 1940s all the way through the 50s, people were taxed upwards of 90%. And even if you're only making 10 grand back then, you were still having to kick the government 40% of what you made. And you might think that, well, hey, tax rates were just that high to fund World War II. And you might be right, but can you tell me why the tax rates were still as high as 70% from the 1960s all the way to the 1980s? Look, my point is that tax rates have been much higher than they are today, so the government is at least willing to go there. Which brings us to the million-dollar question: how much of your 401k is actually yours? Okay, so let's run through a real-life example. Let's say that you've worked really hard and you saved up $500,000 inside of your 401k. And let's just say that tax rates go up from today's 22% or so all the way up to something wild like 40%. And remember, we haven't paid taxes yet. So when we pull our money out of our 401k to use it for retirement, that's when we pay taxes. So if tax rates go up to 40%, $200,000 of your 500 it's not even yours. Let's look at it another way. Let's say that you're already in retirement, you're drawing cash out of your 401k, and then the government decides to do the same thing and bump tax rates up to 40% then. If you're withdrawing $5,000 a month, for example, well, $2,000 of that is going to go straight to the government, leaving you with only $3,000. And remember, this is only at a 40% tax rate. And I showed you earlier, the government's willing to go double that in the past. And that's why you shouldn't throw all of your eggs in one big giant government basket, because it could make for a terrible financial omelet. Okay, later on in the video, I want to go over some different options you have for investing outside of your 401k. But for now, I want to talk about one thing that I found in my 401k that I wasn't really in love with. And it's not even the 10% penalty they try to slap you with if you try to pull your money out before you're 59 and a half. It's actually the lack of quality funds that I had to pick from, and then the higher fees they charge for those funds. Now, the company that I worked at, we used Fidelity to manage our retirement accounts. And what I noticed right off the bat is I didn't really have a lot of different options when it came to picking funds. And the funds that we did have access to, it seemed like they had pretty high fees. Now, if I was getting something crazy in return for these fees, then great. But it's not like I had an advisor walking me through my finances or access to crazy funds that were beating the market consistently. So I wasn't really impressed with the different options that we had or the fees I was being charged for those options. So most people end up picking a target date fund with inside of their 401ks, which I guess does make sense because they say as you get older, you have less time to recover from losses and your asset allocation should shift more towards bonds. And I understand all of that, but just because someone's retiring within the same 5-year period as me doesn't mean that our finances look anything alike. So should our retirement portfolios? Probably not. So was it the best move? You know, to dump all of that money into my 401k whenever I was younger? Look, in hindsight for me, probably not. But for others, it totally could have been. I think the issue that most people have is they really just don't understand that there's other options out there for them. So let's do that. Let's go over a couple different ways that you can invest in your future that aren't called a terrible band name. Okay, so first up is a Roth IRA or 401k. Now, some employers actually offer Roth 401k's, which is pretty cool, alongside of traditional 401k's. Okay, so in a Roth 401k, as you make your money, you're actually going ahead and paying taxes on that first, and then you place it into your Roth 401k. So every paycheck, we're going ahead and taking care of the taxes now, so we don't have to worry about them later on in retirement, right? And then this will gain money as your money is invested inside of the stock market like this. And you're obviously continuing to put more money into it. And then when it's ready for retirement, we don't have to worry about the taxes. We can pull all of this out completely tax-free, and this is yours to keep. This way we can go ahead and pay our taxes up front, so we don't have to worry about what the government may or may not do in the future with different tax rates. And it kind of just simplifies things. When you're ready to retire, you've already taken care of the tax bill. So jog on down to HR and see if your employer offers a Roth 401k. If they do, you might consider switching to it. If they don't, that's okay. We still have another option, and that is a Roth IRA. These are actually super simple to open up all on your own. You just need to choose a brokerage that you want to work with, like Betterment, Charles Schwab, or whichever one you want, and open it up to get started. And I'll leave a link in the description for the one that I like the most. Now, Roth IRAs do have contribution limits, which for this year in 2024 is $7,000. But you can get around that if you have a spouse. You can open up one in their name as well to kind of contribute more to Roth IRAs for your household. Now, another option, although it might be a controversial one, is called an Index Universal Life Policy, also referred to as just an IUL. Now, IULs are kind of like a combination of life insurance as well as a retirement account all in one. And they behave kind of similarly to a Roth account. So the same way what we talked about earlier, where you go ahead and pay your taxes on your money now, that way you don't have to pay any taxes later as you're withdrawing those funds from your account. Another couple advantages are that you don't have some kind of early withdrawal penalty like you do on a 401k with an IUL. Another thing is that there are no contribution limits, so you can pretty much do whatever you want, which is pretty nice. Okay, the last thing that I want to talk about on IULs, I'm going to show you on the tablet. Okay, IULs have a feature called floors and caps. Let me explain what that means. So let's just pretend that this is like a graph of the stock market. This is a plus 10, this is plus 20%, this is bad, minus 10, and let's go minus 20 here. So first, let's do what a floor is. And let's say the stock market has a pretty rough year, right? And it goes all the way down to minus 20% down here. Well, this is where all your friends are gonna be, is at minus 20%. If you had your funds in a certain IUL fund, you would be protected and you would actually take a zero for that year, which most people are gonna be pretty excited about because next year, right, when you start your investing, everyone else is gonna be down here trying to catch back up to you, right? Because you're started at zero. right? Let me do the opposite now. Let's say that the stock market does well and it does 20% or something like that. Well, you are only going to participate in maybe 10% or 11 or 12, depending on which fund that you're in. So you're going to take a 10, but everyone else is going to take a 20%. So that's kind of what a floor and a cap is. What's nice about this though is that you're just not going to lose money in an IUL. So it is really nice that that feature is available to you. Now, some think that IULs are controversial because they think that they underperform the S&P 500 and they have higher fees. And I'll be honest with you, I have an IUL, and for the first 3 years, the fees were a little bit rough. But I went through with mine because I liked it as a defensive play, which allowed me to do other things inside of my portfolio. I also like the fact that I can still pull my money out completely tax-free later on. So it really just comes down to personal preference and developing your own investment philosophy. Okay, so the final thing that I do want to touch on is that if your employer is offering to match your contributions into your 401k to a certain level, it's usually a pretty good idea to take advantage of that because at that point, it's basically just free money. But after you've kind of met that match, you'll probably want to look at some different options when it comes to your retirement funds. But I hope I've given you guys something to think about when it comes to 401ks. And if you guys like this video, be sure to check out my other video right over here.